Welcome to KLIM.News, Christy Lee, Independent Media. I am Christy Lee, and today we're talking about what we've all seen, all of these delays and cancellations in the airline industry, trying to get to the root cause of what exactly is going on. So I'd like to welcome in Josh Yoder. He's a commercial airline pilot for a major airline, and of course, we're not going to reveal which one. Thank you for coming on, Josh, and being able to speak candidly and give us like the inside scoop of what is going on. So obviously my first question is going to be that the mainstream media says it's weather and it's staffing shortages. What's really going on?
Christy, thanks for having me on the show. Yes, as everyone has seen, the airlines are blaming weather and staffing shortages. I believe they were specifically blaming high winds in Dallas for the disruptions at American Airlines. Precisely what we see happening there, the high winds are mostly coming out of the company and the union's mouths there as they give lip service to the American people. They're not being honest about what's actually going on. These vaccine mandates that have come down are putting a tremendous amount of stress on the employees at these airlines. And I believe what you're seeing is people are very tired of it. They're stressed to the max, and they don't feel that they can safely come to work, which is why they're staying home. And that's why you're seeing all these delays and cancellations.
Well, I think it's very brave of you to speak, even though we're not revealing which airline that you work at. Just even putting a face to the name and saying, I am a pilot, I'm in the skies, I've been in the airline industry, and being able to speak candidly about this is very brave. So what can you tell us as far as, I do want to like separate the misinformation from what's being put out there. On the other extreme, we're hearing that other pilots that have been vaccinated have fallen asleep at the wheel, if you will, or had complications in flight. Is there any truth to that?
Well, what I could tell you is that we have a database at U.S. Freedom Flyers that is growing daily from pilots who have been vaccine injured, not just pilots, but flight attendants and different people within the airline and transportation sectors. We're hearing just more and more stories. You know, pilots losing their medicals, they're reaching out to us directly. And this is something the companies are not being honest about. They're trying to cover this up because this is bad for business. But I can tell you from personal accounts that I hear daily from people who are telling me that, you know, the issues that they're experiencing. And I think it's something for grave concern. And what's most concerning is that the companies are forcing employees to choose between their jobs or getting this injection that they don't want. That's coercion, and coercion starts at the highest levels. It starts with the federal government, and the companies are complicit. They're going along with it, and it's just evil.
Now, we hear from the major airlines, oh, well, we're just following the president's directive, the president's mandate. But that's just an arbitrary rule, is it not? And have you been able to connect that truth to others?
That's correct. You know, that's what they're hiding behind. They're hiding behind a federal mandate that I still haven't actually seen. Uh, you know, the companies have a choice, just like we do as employees. They can choose to do the right thing. Imagine what it would do to revolutionize the industry if one of these CEOs just stepped out and said, "We're not going to do this at this airline. We're going to support our employees' right to choose. We're going to support their freedoms." They would become an industry leader overnight because this message resonates with the American people. What people need to understand is that what they're doing to us right now, they also plan to do to passengers. There is a bill in the House right now. It's called HR Bill 4980. And that proposes that if you're an unvaccinated individual in this country, you can neither arrive nor depart from a US airport. So it's critical that our passengers get involved and help us with this fight. We're getting ready to sue the federal government as well as the airlines who choose to go along with these mandates. And we need your help. Help us stop it at this level so that bills like HR 4980 can be stopped at the passenger level.
Now, let me ask you this. I know that many of us respect just people's simple right to choose. If they do find it a benefit or considering the risk reward benefit, they decide to get the injection. I imagine you respect that. Do you feel like you get the same respect in return? Is there anyone that has chosen to get the vaccination that is standing with you folks that are just trying to stand for medical freedom?
Sure. What I believe in is informed consent and the right to choose. Whether you choose to get the vaccine or you choose not to get it, I support both groups. And yes, many of our members at US Freedom Flyers are vaccinated and strongly disagree with what the companies and unions are doing to the unvaccinated. Freedom is a popular message. The companies would have you believe that the vaccinated pilots don't want to fly with the unvaccinated. This is not true. I receive hundreds of emails daily to the contrary, actually. A big problem that we have as well is the unions. Like our unions are so weak. The leadership is absolutely corrupt. They are putting their personal opinions ahead of their duty to fair representation to all members. I received emails from American Airlines pilots just this last week. Their union president, Eric Ferguson, he sent out a memo that said that he believes the unvaccinated pilots need education and counseling. Perhaps that's what we saw over the weekend. Perhaps they all booked education and counseling appointments.
Now, again, you're being very brave and being a voice for other pilots that feel the same way that you do. How willing are you personally? How far are you willing personally to take this? Are you willing to walk away from your profession?
I'm not going to walk away. I'm going to force them to fire me. We can't just quit. We need to force them to fire us if that's the route that they choose to go. That way we have recourse. What they're doing, they're involved in intimidation tactics. They're creating a hostile work environment, and they're really destroying lives. I get so many stories every day, personal stories where people call me on the phone crying. They're really concerned about how they're going to put food on the table for their families. This is coercion, full stop. There's no way for them to spin this. It's pure evil and it needs to stop, and we're here to stop it.
Now, let's get into the logical place in this, or trying to come at it from a scientific point of view. From every study that I've read, the airline has actually been one of the safest places as far as exposure to COVID-19. Have you seen some of those same studies or can speak on that at all?
Yes, absolutely. In 2020, the airlines got together and they paid for a peer-reviewed Harvard study. They spent millions of dollars. The conclusion of that study was that your chance of contracting COVID on an aircraft due to the HEPA filtration systems and all the other safety measures that they take, your risk of contracting COVID is 0.003%. That's well under 1%. As you've seen over the past 18 months, there has been no COVID outbreak that has been linked to airline travel. So what's really interesting is that, during 2020, they were touting what a safe experience you're going to have at the airlines. And suddenly now it's the unvaccinated that are a threat. Something else is going on here. This is definitely not about our health.
What do you think that something else is? Why are the CEOs, why are you getting so much pressure from above to step in line, follow suit, and get the jab?
Well, I think what you see is pressure coming from the federal government. And then we have to also look at the money that the federal government gave to the airlines during COVID. They were paid by the federal government or by the taxpayer, actually. They were given money to make sure that people would stay on board and not be fired. Like, we were supposed to receive our salaries, throughout COVID. It was part of the government relief program. And what you see now, what's interesting is I think that the federal government is, coercing the companies essentially saying, "Hey, we gave you this money," and so now that's how they're getting compliance from the CEOs. I believe that when you follow the money, you come down, you find the truth about what's actually happening. It's time for these CEOs, just like us, to stand up and say no, and to stand up for people that don't have a voice and do the right thing.
So, talk about the group that was formed and how it was formed. And I read that now it's not only restricted to airline in this group, but also other people in transportation. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure, we've been myself and several colleagues. We've been paying close attention since the beginning of COVID, and we saw this tyranny coming into our airline. So back in August, I did an interview with Stu Peters, and that was to get more people to reach out to me. And what we did is we just started a grassroots freedom-based movement. It started with airline employees to get ahead of these mandates and to provide representation that our unions are not providing. And that quickly grew. We quickly realized that passengers wanted to get involved. So we've opened this up for everybody. We're working with people throughout the transportation sector, including Boeing employees, and different companies are coming in. And we're all working together now to stop these mandates. Like I said previously, we're getting ready to sue the federal government. And then we'll also turn the lawyers on these companies, should they choose to go through with the mandates. And if you're able to help, if you're able to donate, please go to usfreedomflyers.org. Please sign up for our emails so that you can stay up to speed on what we're doing. And if you can help us with our legal cases, we would really appreciate it. Everyone at U.S. Freedom Flyers is a volunteer. No one is paid here, and many of us, work around the clock to keep this organization going. And I believe we're starting to see results.
Speaking about the importance of health in general, you were saying that you and many other pilots have felt stressed out and can actually evaluate how that affects your job. So, you want to explain that to me?
Sure, we're actually required by the company to evaluate our stress levels and our emotional fitness every time before we go fly. We have to sign in fit for duty on our iPads. There's a button that you push that says, "I'm confirming that I'm fit for duty." And part of that, there's a checklist. It's called "I'm Safe." It's an acronym. And two of the things on the "I'm Safe" checklist are evaluating our personal stress levels and also our emotional fitness. What you see happening right now is pilots that are not emotionally fit to fly, and they are stressed beyond belief. So don't let the company tell you that it's our fault when we don't show up. We're just following their rules.
I mean, you are currently actively doing flights out. We even had to reschedule because you had a schedule change and trying to get the word out about this. So you've got a lot on your plate.
Yes, it's been very busy. I've been working seven days a week, 16 to 20 hours a day for a few months now.
Now, I have to ask you, and this might seem trivial, but it's been so explosive in the news. People are losing their minds over a pilot that allegedly said, "Let's go, Brandon," and there's an investigation. Even, do you have any thoughts on that, or anything that you want to share as a pilot?
Well, he basically said what all the rest of us are thinking. That I can assure you. Yeah, I found it very interesting when that news report came out. I know he was very much being cheered on by millions of passengers as well as many fellow crew members.
Okay. And so now that you've been involved in this, from my perspective as an independent journalist, I am hearing from military members, some even in my own family, seeing how aggressive they're going after trying to get children inoculated now. And then all across the transportation industry and federal employees, they're just pushing this so hard. It's hard not to get discouraged. So, do you feel like you're making progress? Do you feel like there's hope of turning this around?
Yes, we are making progress, and the greater our numbers grow, the more strength that we have. That's why it's so important that people go to the website and sign up with us. There's power in numbers, and there's power in the word no. We need millions of people to stand up with us and say no. If we do that, this will come to a screeching halt. I truly believe that. It's time. The American people are starting to wake up, and it's time that we unite and that we come together and that we stand strong against both these companies and the federal government.
There's a lot that we could cover. Is there anything that we as an audience should know about what's going on from a pilot's perspective?
Sure. What I can tell you is that if the companies go through with these mandates, your holiday travel is going to be an absolute catastrophe. They gave us the cutoff date of being vaccinated by November 24th, the day before Thanksgiving. You've seen the meltdowns that have happened at Southwest and American Airlines, which I feel were fairly clearly in protest of the vaccine mandates. Imagine if they get rid of 20 to 30% of their workforces across these airlines. You are going to see an absolute travel disaster, and not just travel, but it's going to have devastating effects on the US economy and the worldwide economy as a whole.
What is you feel is the best argument to get folks on this side, as far as like those are like, what's the big deal? Like, just don't be selfish, just get the vaccine. What do you feel like is the best way to reach people that are coming from that perspective?
I think we need to help people understand that this is about individual freedom. While they may feel very strongly that we should get the vaccine, what they're not thinking about is a year down the road when another issue arises that perhaps affects them, that something they don't want to participate in. So this is a slippery slope. If we allow these mandates to be put in place and we set precedent for the federal government to be able to tell people what to do with their bodies, what happens when it's an issue that affects you? This issue of informed consent and individual freedom is absolutely critical. That is who we are as a country. And it's important that we stand together now because when that issue affects you a few years down the road, we're also going to stand with you regardless of our personal opinions. We believe in your freedom.
Well, thank you for being so brave and putting a face to this issue and giving the other side straight from the source as opposed to the MSM that likes to frame it their own way. And again, if we want to support, donate, and join the cause, where do we go?
Go to usfreedomflyers.org and click on join the fight. Please sign up for emails. I understand even if you can't give money, please give us your participation. That's how we stop this, is by all standing together and saying no.